For centuries, the vampires and werewolves had been sworn enemies, their hatred for each other burning brighter with each passing year. The vampires, with their supernatural strength and speed, had long been the dominant force, ruling over the night with an iron fist. Their leader, Vladimir, was a ruthless and cunning vampire lord who had lived for centuries, accumulating wealth and power. He was feared by all, and his very name sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest warriors. Vladimir's powers were legendary. He could control the minds of others, bend the elements to his will, and even transform into a bat or wolf at will. His followers were loyal only to him, and they would stop at nothing to carry out his orders. But the werewolves, with their fierce loyalty and pack mentality, had never given up. They had always known that their time would come, that one day they would rise up and take their rightful place as the rulers of the night. Their leader, Luca, was a young and powerful werewolf who had been chosen by the pack to lead them in their quest for victory. Luca was different from the others, possessing a strength and cunning that had never been seen before. Luca's powers were still growing, but he had already proven himself to be a formidable opponent. He could transform into a wolf at will, and his senses were heightened to superhuman levels. He was also a skilled fighter, able to take down even the most powerful foes. Luca knew that the only way to defeat the vampires was to form an alliance with their sworn enemies, the humans. For centuries, the humans had lived in fear of the vampires, but Luca knew that together, they could be a force to be reckoned with. He spent months gathering support among the human leaders, convincing them that the time had come to take a stand against the vampires. It wasn't easy, but eventually he had gathered a small army of brave warriors who were willing to fight alongside the werewolves. The humans were led by a brave and noble warrior named Sophia. She was a skilled fighter and a natural leader, and she had lost loved ones to the vampires in the past. She was determined to see them defeated, and she was willing to risk everything to make it happen. As the night of the final battle approached, the tension grew. The vampires and werewolves faced off in the streets, their eyes locked in a fierce stare. The humans stood alongside the werewolves, their swords and torches at the ready. The battle raged on for hours, the two sides trading blows and neither gaining the upper hand. But as the night wore on, the werewolves began to gain ground. Their superior strength and speed, combined with the humans' determination and cunning, proved to be too much for the vampires. One by one, the vampires fell, until finally only Vladimir was left. The vampire lord let out a mighty roar as Luca approached him, but it was too late. With one final blow, Luca struck down Vladimir, ending the vampire's reign of terror once and for all. As the dust settled, the werewolves and humans stood victorious, their chests heaving with exhaustion. They had done it. They had finally defeated the vampires and taken back the night. And so, a new era began. The werewolves, with Luca as their leader, became the protectors of the night, working alongside the humans to keep the peace and ensure that the vampires would never again threaten the world. The humans, who had once lived in fear of the vampires, now lived in harmony with the werewolves, who had become their allies and friends. And Luca, the young werewolf, who had once dreamed of defeating the vampires, now stood as a hero, his name etched in history as the leader who had brought peace to the night. The years that followed were marked by peace and prosperity. The werewolves and humans worked together to rebuild the cities and towns that had been destroyed by the vampires. They formed a new government, one that was fair and just, and they lived in harmony with one another. And Luca, the hero of the war, became a legendary figure, revered by all. He continued to lead the werewolves, but now he did so as a symbol of hope and freedom. He had saved the world from the vampires, it brought peace to the night.